What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003 and starting to get very optimistic about this Pistons team. Ausar Thompson is taking a leap right in front of our eyes right now and is showing his superstar potential at a rate that he never has before. He's playing the best basketball of his short career, and I wanted to make a video just talking exclusively about that. I want to get into his defense. I want to talk about his offense. I want to talk about his ceiling. I want to talk about what I expect from him rest of the season. And then I also, at the very back half of the video, just want to touch on some things related to his twin brother, Amen, and kind of the differences in their game and differences in their potential and how I feel about that, because it is kind of something that gets brought up and discussed in NBA circles pretty often right now. So to hop right into it, the first thing we're going to talk about for Ausar is going to be his defense and how it's looked lately. And this is probably going to be the shortest segment of the video because Ausar is an all-world defender already and has potential to get even better. But we've known this since he stepped foot into the league. Right now, Ausar is already a top-tier perimeter defender. He is a rare combination of a disruptive defender that can blow up plays by jumping passing lanes, ripping it right off a ball handler, weak side help, blocked shots, just these splash defensive plays that will blow up an entire team set and lead to transition points on the other end. But he's also incredibly disciplined. He very, very rarely gets beat. When he gambles, he's able to recover. He's just all of that and a bag of chips on the defensive end. And I think that that is really evident and has been evident for a long time. His potential on that side of the ball is limitless. I think that there's a real world where 20 years from now, we're talking about Ausar as one of the best perimeter defenders in NBA history. I think that at the top level, he could be a Kawhi level defender, perimeter defender, and I think he's already approaching that territory. He just doesn't have the size of a body of work to prove it, but on a given night, on a given play, when you're watching him play defense, he really is that good, and that is not at all surprising to me whatsoever because that was pretty evident the second he stepped into the NBA, so no shock there. So moving on, what we do want to talk about is going to be the offense because I feel like that is where he has really taken a leap recently and is kind of opening up the conversation of him potentially becoming a star to the broader audience of people. So, of course, Ausar was out for the start of the year with the health scare. He returned in November on a minutes restriction. In the month of November, he played 5 games and averaged 5.5 points, just getting eased back into things. And then in the month of December, his minutes hardly ramped up. He was still right around 18 minutes per game and averaging 8 points per game. In the month of January, his minutes ramped up a little bit more, up to 22, but he was still right around that 8 points per game. But in the month of February, we are now 7 games into it, and he has averaged 25 minutes per game and 15 points per game. There hasn't been a single game where he has had less than 10 points since January 31st. And right now, in the month of February, he is shooting 70% from the floor and hasn't attempted a single three-pointer. So, how has that happened? JB Bickerstaff has, of course, not only increased his minutes because he is now getting closer to fully being ramped up and able to take on that type of load, but JB Bickerstaff has used him in a more unique way that has led for him to have a lot more opportunities at the rim and be in a position to be a more impactful, positive player in the half-court offense. He's always been great in transition, so I don't really want to touch on that, but if we look at his most recent games, last game, 8 for 10 from the field. The game before that, 7 of 8 from the field. The game before that, 7 of 9 from the field. The dude is hardly missing shots because he's not taking shots away from the rim, and anything at the rim, he is absolutely incredibly great because he's athletic, smart, and everything in between. JB Bickerstaff has taken him off of the three-point line where wings traditionally spot up and play more often than not in today's NBA, and they've used him in more of a traditional power forward role, kind of like Aaron Gordon type of role where he's hanging out on the dunker spot a lot so he can catch dump downs from Cade or even Duren when Duren catches it in the high post, and then they're also just sending him to be a backdoor cutter all of the time. And when he does that, he's so quick that he flashes, and we have the playmaking capabilities on our roster to be able to find him on those cuts and get easy buckets. So right now, Ausar has been great. in the half-court offense for the first time in his entire NBA career, and I think a lot of that needs to be credited towards JB Bickerstaff for finding a way to use him in a different type of role where he's not taking any three-pointers, and he's been very successful. I do need to be honest, that does scare me just ever so slightly for when we do get into a potential playoff series, because when you play a team 7 times in the matter of 2 weeks, it's a lot easier to scheme around players that are like Ausar Thompson, who are wings, who aren't shooting, who are doing a lot of backdoor cutting and hanging out in the dunker spot. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All I can say is right now, the past 10 games or so, he has been awesome on the offensive end in the half court for the first time in his career, and it's been great to see. If he's able to continue to do this, there's going to be eyes on him all across the league. So what do I expect for the rest of the year for Ausar Thompson? Probably everything that we have seen in February, plus maybe a little bit more. As I mentioned, his minutes have now been ramped up to the point where he's playing 25 minutes per game. I think that number will probably stay right around that 25 to 30 range. The thing about Ausar Thompson is when he does go to the bench, we're able to use Ron Holland in a very similar role. So it allows JB to give Ausar extended rest and help monitor those minutes, as I know that has been a priority for our training staff. But I think Ausar is just going to continue to do what he has been doing the past 10 games for the rest of the season, and then throughout the summer, potentially add more to his game. And that is where we can start to see a guy who is getting close to that all-star caliber type of player. So I wanted to touch quickly on the comparisons between him and Amen. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I do know it gets talked about all the time. Amen has clearly been a great player for the Houston Rockets this year. The Houston Rockets have been a good team, and Amen has been one of the main reasons for that. So Amen started getting flowers from the broader NBA community a lot earlier than Ausar did, as Ausar was kind of slowly getting ramped up this year and missed the first half of the season. But I do want to point something out. When you adjust for the fact that Amen is playing more minutes than Ausar, because, well, of course, he didn't have a health scare this summer, and we look at their per 36 numbers. Per 36 minutes of game time, Ausar is averaging 16 points per game, Amen 15.5. Their rebounds, 8.5 to 9.1. Assists, 3.7 to 3.8. Ausar gets an extra steal per 36 minutes. Amen gets almost an extra block per 36 minutes. Right now, Amen is shooting 54% from the floor on the season. Ausar is shooting 55% from the floor on the season. They both can't shoot the 3-ball whatsoever. Their free throw percentage is a bit spread out right now, as Ausar is about 10% lower. Ausar does foul a little bit more. They turn over the ball at exactly the same rate per 36 minutes. So all I'm really saying is I think that these two guys are way, way closer than what people make it out to be. Amen, of course, played more of a point guard role growing up when they were on the same team, so he does have more experience with the ball in his hands as a creator, and that does show. But I have no reason to believe that given the opportunity to progress in a similar role, Ausar can't get to the same level as his brother, because as far as their athleticism goes, their measurables go, it seems like their mindset, they are very, very close. And I just think that if you were going to spend any time debating Amen versus Ausar, which kind of seems like a fool's errand to me, my 2 cents on it, they are so, so close, and the gaps between them are so, so small and can be closed in short amounts of time. And I think that the only reason why gaps exist, and Amen definitely is a little better as a creator right now, is just because he has more experience in that. I don't think that there's any physical limitations or mental limitations for Ausar to be able to get to that level that Amen is on as a playmaker and creator. So let me know what you guys think. I'm so excited to have Ausar on my team. He was who I wanted to draft last year, and the reasons are now very evident. So I'll catch up with you soon.